Very good to have your company. I'm David Foster. Now, can you rely on others these days to provide you with a living? Companies, jobs, wages, pensions, and so on. Maybe it's time to do it all yourself. Welcome to Roundtable on starting your own business. Well, from someone who teaches entrepreneurship to another who gives advice on startups, to a successful startup itself. We're hoping here to navigate the pitfalls to profitability.
In the world of work, it's become normal for people to no longer rely on one source of income. The traditional model of working a 9-to-5 job in an office or factory doesn't always apply. For many people, it's meant starting out on their own, from serving up a vegan cafe to creating your own app. During the 2008 recession, a wave of new startups emerged from the financial downturn. WhatsApp, the encrypted messaging app, started in 2009 and now boasts 2 billion global users. Facebook bought it for $19 billion in 2014. In the United States, more than 40 million people have lost their jobs since the coronavirus pandemic began, and that may force many people to start working for themselves, creating ideas for new businesses and adapting to new trends. But just how easy is it to create a startup, and what are some of the challenges people will face along the way?
I'm very pleased to welcome to the program, joining us from San Jose in Costa Rica, Jose Cayasso, Chief Exec of Slidebean. That's an online platform that designs and creates presentations for businesses. The company apparently made $2.5 million from YouTube and Google alone. We go to the Isle of Man, where we say hello to Matt Kuppers, Chief Exec and founder of Startup Manufactory, a firm specializing in startup consulting. And to Birmingham next, where we say hi to Endrit Kromidha, Senior Lecturer in Entrepreneurship and Innovation at the University of Birmingham. If you guys don't know how to do it, nobody does. So I'm going to start first of all with you, Matt, and ask you, what is the absolute no-no? What must you never do when you're starting a business?
Oh, there's many things people can actually get wrong when they start a business. But the most frequent mistakes people make are actually just kind of not focusing on the right steps. I think, when you start a business, obviously, you have to focus on generating revenues. You have to get customers. You have to find people that want to give you their money for what you have come up with. That's the most important thing. And many people mainly focus on, they focus on social media, they focus on design, they focus on all sorts of things, but not really on the essentials, which is actually making money.
Who's going to lend you that money in the first place? Where do you go?
Well, either you use your own savings. What you can do is you can also set out a financial plan, basically. So you look at your resources, how much money do you have available? What's your time horizon? What's your burn rate? How long will it last you? And you can also get a bank loan. You can get money from investors, friends and family as well. You can sell your car, use your savings. I met people that sold a house, a property to start a business. So there's all sorts of sources you can tap into in order to start a business.
But you've got to be very convincing. How do you make them believe you?
So you need to have a very good idea, a very good concept. But in my view, if you have already a background in a certain industry you want to start a business in, that's one of the most important assets you can have. If you've been working in, say, finance for 10, 15 years, you leave your company in order to solve a certain problem you came across many times over your career, then that's a very strong sales point. And if you have already the solution in your head, you just have to go and execute and build the product or whatever you want to build. That's a very strong selling point.
Yeah, the word just is something that would escape me if I was trying to do it. It isn't that simple, and it's something you teach. Endrit, everybody thinks they've got a good idea. What makes a good one?
It's not only about the idea, I believe. It's a lot about the entrepreneurial personality as well. Things like risk-taking propensity, need for autonomy, proactiveness, the desire to get on and do something. And about the ideas, yes, there are plenty of ideas out there, but I believe is the timing as well, timing, resources. So a lot can take a little bit of risk and play around with ideas and experiment with something. But those would rarely move beyond the novice entrepreneur. And that's the reason why to move to the next stage, one way is to learn through a lot of mistakes, or the other way is to get some more knowledge, data, work with the right people. So it's a bit more complex to make supply and demand meet while you take some risk in managing the
You
whole
see,
process.
to me, it always sounds rather intuitive, as if you've got to have it in you already. So how do you teach it?
There are tools that we use, simple ones like the business model canvas. We teach about the process. There are two sides, the supply side and the demand side, and the supply side is more operations and logistics. So how to deal with suppliers, how to manage processes, how to produce something in a way that is efficient, how to cost it and calculate it so that you can price it correctly. And on the demand side, a lot there is related to marketing. So marketing, it's a science derived from psychology and sociology, consumer behavior, making sense of data, market trends, translating it into your business. So it's a little bit more than just the guts feeling.
Okay, well, I'll tell you
And
what we'll
those
do.
is what
We'll take a look at some companies that did do it during difficult times, going back around about 2008, the massive recession then. This is from foxbusiness.com. They report that Groupon, 2008, company now valued at $750 million. Uber, we know that one, 2009, 47 billion said to be its worth. And WhatsApp, mentioned in the package at the beginning of the program, bought by Facebook for 19 billion just a few years ago. Pinterest, 8.6 billion, and Instagram, 1 billion. Kaya, in Costa Rica, I don't know how much your company is worth, what your turnover is, but I think you're successful. So tell us a little bit about how you got to that place.
I want to resonate with what everybody else has said, and this whole process is a process of experimenting and failing, both with marketing and with sales and with your growth tactics. So in the end, the runway of a business is the time that you have before you run out of money, and the quicker you can churn out these experiments, the quicker you can find out if a specific channel works or doesn't work, the more experiments you'll be able to run. And in the end, that's what has made us successful. We've been able to run experiments across so many different marketing channels, and some of them have eventually worked.
What went wrong for you?
My first couple companies went a lot wrong. Mistakes, probably the biggest mistake we made there was not focusing on the business, just thinking that raising more capital is the goal, when in the end, the goal is making a business that makes money.
And you made, what was it, $2.5 million out of Google and YouTube alone. For somebody who's thinking of doing something similar, how do you go about that?
Yeah, so that was just one of our experiments, figuring out if our content would resonate with other entrepreneurs, figuring out if our blog posts would resonate with them, if people would read them and search them and share them. And that has become our core source of growth right now. A lot of people discover us because we decided to be a little transparent about our business, to kind of tell our success story, tell these stories of what worked, what didn't work, and just making that public. And then any entrepreneur that comes behind us or that it's on a similar stage to us probably finds these insights very useful because nobody else is willing to share them.
And that is really the idea, isn't it? Is you attract entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs to your platform and show them some of the ways of doing it, templates, etc., etc., etc. Endrit, let me ask you, can you spot when you are giving a class, can you spot somebody who's got what it takes?
Well, it depends on the size of the class. First year students, my class is around 400 students, and it's difficult. But in small group seminars, they come across in a way. I can see the group leaders that want to control things, control their group. They have their ideas. They start pushing their ideas. But they're also the innovators, those who have great ideas, but maybe they're not that good at working with other people. So I would say rather than the individuals, I could spot teams.
So let me ask you this. You say first year, probably roughly, what, 400. Out of that, how many do you think are successful just a few years down the line?
Statistically, it's about 15% of my students, I believe, well, not from my students, but in general, that would leave on their business. However, careers have become more complex now. So a lot have a job and a business on the side, or a business and some other stable stream of income on the side. And there's a lot of more of jumping in and out of the work market to experiment with a business idea and going back. So balancing both to a certain extent. So it's not as clear cut as it used to be, I would say.
Yeah, so it's not one thing or the other. And I'll come to you in just a moment, Matt, to ask you about the order of doing things. But let's go back to Kaya on that particular point. You have Slidebean. I don't know whether you're thinking about other ventures as well. Do you recognize the model as described as sort of not necessarily one thing or the other exclusively? There could be a lot of different things going on.
Yeah, especially at the get-go, we had a lot of things going on. We did some consulting on the side to pay the bills and to be able to dedicate the rest of our time to the business. Once you raise capital, ideally you should do only one thing, and that's what capital is for. But I think that is the approach that many entrepreneurs should take. Trying to come up with a business, trying to come up with a product, and proving that the product works before looking for capital. So hacking their way to doing that was probably a combination of keeping a steady source of income and using the rest of the time for the startup.
Okay, Matt, one of the things you said is the focus should be on revenue and getting customers and making money. Well, surely people go, yeah, of course I want to make money. But is there a right order or a wrong order in which to do things?
There's no right order, but I think there's many wrong orders. And as one of my predecessors mentioned, it's a bit of trial and error, really. But again, you need to focus on what do you really want to create? What value do you create for your customers? And then you have to go and trial and pilot your idea with your customers or potential customers. Many people spend months or even years behind closed doors and working on ideas and becoming totally perfectionist about it. And then the idea hits the market and completely fails because they just forgot about including the customers in the process of developing something. And yeah, it is trial and error, but the right way of doing it is trying to get as soon as possible potential customers involved, get their feedback involved in the process of building something, and then playing it back to them.
So one of the mistakes could be a failure to adapt. You think you have the perfect idea, and nobody's going to take you away from believing that. Whereas, in fact, if you made just the slightest little tweak, it could be very successful.
That's perfectly correct. I mean, I look at it as, let's say, a street food van. You're trying out a recipe on Monday, a burger. No one buys your burger. On Tuesday, you change the recipe. You get a few more customers. On Wednesday, you improve. And by Friday, you sold 50 burgers. And in the process of 5 days or so, you've seen instantly the reaction of your customers, of people buying a product from you. You can observe them. You can talk to them. And you re-inject the feedback into the process of the remodeling of your product or your idea. And then you just go along with it. So that's actually key in order to build something of value, to include the customer's feedback in the development process.
Yeah, in other words, if burgers are your big thing, on Monday you're a burger salesman. On Friday, you're still a burger salesman. You're still doing what you like, but you're doing it just slightly differently. Kaya, have you had to make big changes that perhaps you didn't want to?
Yeah, absolutely. For us, most of those experiments have been around pricing. We discovered early on how there's a barrier towards converting people to paying for a software product But once you overcome that barrier, you can play around with the pricing a lot more than you would think. So we, our first product was $5 a month. Our product today, we have a plan that's $99 a month, and people are happier with the $99 a month plan because we offer more things. But it's about those experiments. It's about finding what right combination of features and things and onboarding works to make your customers happy, just keep them paying.
Does it have to be a passion?
Does it have to be a passion? The whole starting a company process takes so long. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon, and you need to find the combination of passion, of work-life balance to be able to keep up with this for years.
Which takes us, Endrit, back to the classroom and a good idea or a bad idea. Can you spot them? Can the people who come up with them even spot them if it's pointed out to them?
It depends on the measure of success, I would say. And what goes in the classroom, a lot of that is research based. So we do a lot of research and to know more about the market. So what is success? Is it making money? Is it making the world a better place? Is it increasing sales, capturing market, growing, becoming famous? So there's a lot of work now, not just on businesses, social enterprises. So a bad idea or a good idea is quite a relative term. Spotting it, I believe, there are certain measures that banks or financial institutions apply to look at the financial projections. One of the key things, though, that investors look at is the entrepreneur. So the personality of the entrepreneur and the team. And there are other measures as well. So, but I would say it's not just an idea. There are plenty of very, very good ideas out there. Is what I usually mention sometimes is the exceptional execution of an ordinary idea. I would say that makes a business successful.
You see, I mean, one of the things I'm wondering is if you have the drive, if you have the enthusiasm, if you have the passion, then you come across as that sort of person to anybody who wants to invest in it. I mean, for example, Credit Karma started in 2008 or thereabouts. Ken Lin, the boss there, says building and scaling an impactful business requires a drive beyond making money. Having the passion to deliver on your company's purpose will fuel you through the trying times. That for each one of you. You first, Kaya, how do you get through the tough times?
I think that for me at least, it's been this great relationship I have with my co-founders. They are not only my business partners, but we support each other whenever one of us three is going through a tough time. And we've been working for this company for 7 years, so that is bound to happen. For us, at least, the users and kind of like the impact that our content and our product has on these companies. A lot of our customers are early stage companies that are just getting started, and we have the capacity to have tremendous impact in, I don't want to say the success of this business, but a little bit of how their business does, if we can teach them in this early on. And a lot of the content that we generate goes along with that. So that is probably the biggest advantage, or the biggest happy moment that kind of compensates for the tough times.
And can you be an entrepreneur of entrepreneurs? Kaya, in your business, you're helping people become entrepreneurs. Could you make use of what you see them doing to enter into other business relationships as well?
We never set out to build something like this. We set out to build a presentation platform. We set out to compete against PowerPoint. But turned out that most of the customers that would come to us were part of this group. So it is an exciting position to be in, to be able to help these other companies out. And again, I don't want to say that we faked our way here. We really raised money for this company, and it turned out that now this story hopefully can help other companies do the same.
Is it still privately owned by just that small number of you, or have you got other outside investors to come in? Therefore, you might have to change.
We have some outside investors, but in the end, we've looked for investors, and we've had the privilege of finding investors that are on board with our leadership and our vision for the company. So that's, I think, a lucky and great combination.
And in financial terms, would you want to be a WhatsApp, an Uber, an Instagram, etc., or is it the idea that you're taking forward and the fact that you're helping people what motivates you?
A little bit of both. This is new. Like I said, we set out to build the WhatsApp, the new whatever unicorn startup. We ended up in this position, and I like both. I still think that we have the capacity and want to eventually build a business that has that scale, not only for the money, but because of the impact that one of these businesses could have in society. These are companies that in the end shifted how people behave, that have been the platform to set out revolutions, and that is very exciting to me. That probably will motivate me to keep building companies for a long time.
Okay, Kaya, so when you do sell for about 25 billion, do remember, please, where you got a television break in the UK and across the world. We'll come back to you towards the end. I want to go to Matt now, and I want to say, when people come to you and say, I have this great idea, what completely turns you off and makes you think that they might be entirely unsuitable?
Bunch of things, actually. So the first thing I look at is the background of the person and maybe the team as well. Do these people have the capacity? Do they have the professional experience? Do they have a network? Do they have any skills they can bring to the table? Yeah, so, and there is a statistic on the internet, actually, and looking at the perfect age for becoming an entrepreneur. And interestingly enough, it's around between 35 and early 40s or mid 40s, actually. And the reason for that is that people at this particular stage in their lives are more experienced in a range of things, in different sorts of ways. So I think experience is one thing. And I want to build on what you asked earlier. What is it that drives people? It is resilience, and not only resilience in building a business, but also having gone through other periods of their lives where they can, where they have proven actually they can see things through really, because it is very hard. Another thing is, when people are very young, when they're graduates or around 20 or so, at this age, they don't have much to lose. They don't have a mortgage or children or family or whatever. But on the other hand, the lack of experience is also, a bit of evident. So I think experience is very important. Being mindful of resources is another one as well. Having worked out the idea quite well, it's very important as well. And also having a mindset that allows for experimental episodes, or experimentation, trying things out, and also being humble at the same time. And some people are very sort of arrogant. They think they're gonna make it, but you have to be really humble, and you have to be ready to deal with knockbacks as well. So these are all kind of
all things to all people. Important. You have to be humble, but you have to be confident, etc., etc. But you also have to come up with, Endrit, absolutely, with something that is going to change things. You have to be able to drive that change, don't you? Your idea?
I agree that driving change is, it's a good thing, and a lot are trying to change, but we have to also value sometimes what we have. There are a lot of very good businesses that simply rely on keeping things stable or heritage. So yes, it's true that more than 7% of investment money goes for fintech companies. So, but there are other trends as well. For example, there's a lot of investment going on things about staying healthy, staying fit, so basically preserving our youth as long as possible, and maybe even going back to do things like they used to be before. So change is a relative term, absolutely, but it's more a matter of responding to what the society wants or what the world needs, combined with a passion for those things. And one thing I feel I need to say, change should not be driven by investors, because sometimes investors look for short-term goals, short-term return on their profit, more of catching the wave of that particular tech hype or some sort of other hype.
Okay, before we, I get that about the investors, and we know that Kaya has some investors, but I want to end the program with somebody who's done their own business, and Kaya, this would be perfect. Would you, with all that you know so far, and you're still relatively young, would you advise other people to do the same rather than go out and get a traditional old job?
I've gotten this question a lot lately on the pandemic, and my take is always finding a job and working at a company is way easier than starting a business. That's the easy route. Even in today's environment, starting a business is the hard route. But and that's why not everybody can be an entrepreneur. We can't be all entrepreneurs, and that's fine. There's a select group of people, this rare combination of passion, skill, good idea, that will set out and make a great business. Most businesses will fail. So if you come into this journey with that mindset, knowing that this is the hard route, there's a good chance that the business is not going to work out, and you still feel that that's what you want to do, then you're probably on the right track.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much indeed. And we appreciate you taking time to come onto the program. For anybody interested in starting out as an entrepreneur, their own startup business is going to be tough. It's going to be a long road. You've got to have passion. You've got to have drive. You've got to have confidence, humility. You've got to be the perfect person, and then you'll probably succeed. Well, we hope you do. Thank you very much for watching. From me, David Foster, we hope to have your company next time. Until then, goodbye.